On May 8, 2026, the Pentagon released 161 classified files at war.gov/UFO. California appears in them more than any other state. 14 incidents, 5 decades, military radar, pilot testimony, and internal assessments that were never meant to be public. None of them name what the objects were. All of them name where they appeared: off San Diego, above the LA fires, over a Marine Corps base, above a mountain resort. A woman who pulled her car over in Napa Valley and filmed a disc-shaped object in broad daylight. Marines at a desert base who forgot their composure long enough to say it out loud on an audio recording. The government had the footage the whole time, and here's what it shows.
Those are not aluminum rounds because aluminum rounds fall. And nobody shoots in a 5-gun section.
California's wildfires produce more aerial footage per event than almost any other natural disaster in the world. News helicopters, wildlife cameras, news drones, and thousands of phone cameras document the skies around every major fire in real time. Which is why what turned up in that footage is really difficult to dismiss. During the Woolsey fire in November 2018, helicopter footage captured over northern Los Angeles County showed a long, metallic-looking object emerging from thick wildfire smoke, cigar-shaped, no visible wings or rotors, moving steadily against the prevailing wind direction inside restricted airspace, where the FAA, by the way, had cleared no authorized aircraft for that flight path. MUFON investigators who analyzed the footage noted that a debris object carried by wind does not move against wind direction at a consistent heading. The Woolsey cigar held a steady course. Their investigation file has never been disclosed. During the January 2025 Palisades and Eaton fires, the footage multiplied. Among the most widely circulated clips was a massive glowing object filmed above a smoke column near the Palisades burn zone. Witnesses described it as a mothership. Multiple smaller lights appeared to orbit it in coordinated patterns distinct from burning debris. NOAA atmospheric scientists cited Santa Ana winds carrying burning debris to altitude, birds caught in firelight reflecting heat signatures, and smoke distorting apparent size and speed. Now, those explanations do not account for the Woolsey cigar, which was filmed in visible light at close range, moving in the wrong direction, in airspace where nothing should have been flying. 3 things defined what cameras caught: no sound, a precise heading against the wind, then gone without a trace. Those 3 behaviors appear in every California sighting that follows. Different shapes, different years, but same signature. The fires showed it in disaster conditions, but the same signature was showing up in clear sky, over a mountain resort on a summer evening. No smoke, no restricted airspace, no obvious reason for anything unusual to be there at all.
I got him. I'm recording him right now.
On July 5, 2020, people around Big Bear Lake in the San Bernardino Mountains reported seeing something unusual in the summer sky above the mountain range. Now, Big Bear sits at 6,752 feet. The sky above the National Forest is clear enough that anything unusual above the tree line is visible for miles. The descriptions were consistent. Small, glowing points of light, not moving in straight lines, not steady like stars, shifting direction without decelerating first, stopping, and then moving again, appearing in groups that seemed to maintain formation before separating. Several observers with telescopes and zoom cameras noted what they described as a structured craft obscured by the lights. Something behind the lights rather than the lights themselves. A mass that they could not resolve into a known shape, but could track by the way it blocked stars at the edges of its silhouette. Skeptics raised the proximity of Big Bear to Edwards Air Force Base, roughly 80 miles southwest in the Mojave Desert, and to the Naval Air Weapons Station at China Lake, which tests experimental aircraft in that general corridor. Classified platforms operating at altitude in mountain airspace would appear exactly as described, lights that do not behave like commercial aircraft, movement that does not follow conventional flight patterns. Steve Murillo, the California MUFON State Section Director who investigated Southern California aerial anomalies in that period, said the Big Bear footage was among the most compelling civilian reports his organization received that summer. He noted the light's coordinated movement and the presence of what multiple witnesses described as a solid mass behind them, distinct from drone formations which do not produce that effect. No official agency confirmed any classified operation above Big Bear on July 5, 2020. The FAA's airspace log for that evening has not been released publicly. The mountain resort was civilian airspace, open, unwatched. Whatever was flying above it was operating where no one expected it. The same was true 90 miles south, inside one of the most restricted military installations in the country.
Those are not loom rounds because loom rounds fall. And nobody shoots in a 5-gun section.
29 Palms is the largest Marine Corps base in the United States. 900 square miles of restricted Mojave Desert terrain. What happens there does not tend to become public. In 2021, multiple video clips were recorded near Camp Wilson, a forward training area inside the base. The footage remained classified until 2023, when researchers and podcast hosts obtained it and published it online. The footage shows a large, dark object hovering over the training area at night, not moving like a military aircraft, not moving like a helicopter, holding a fixed position and then accelerating away without the gradual speed increase that engine-powered aircraft produce. The audio recording from the witnesses is the part most analysts focus on. Trained Marines at a restricted installation on a night exercise. One voice on the recording says the word aliens before someone with more institutional composure cuts the audio. Military analysts offer 3 explanations: classified drone testing, desert heat distortion creating infrared artifacts, and conventional aircraft misidentified through night vision optics. A former Marine who later spoke to a UAP research organization said that he'd been told at 29 Palms that every anomalous object was a classified aircraft from another branch. Now, he believed it for years, until he compared notes with people at other bases who had been given that same explanation, word for word. The Pentagon has not released an official identification of the object filmed at Camp Wilson in 2021. The military had classified footage it could not explain. Civilian California had footage too. Now, the next case wasn't filmed by a government system or a news helicopter. It was filmed by a woman on her iPhone in the middle of the afternoon. And what she caught was clearer than anything the military released.
Straight up and down. No, it has something on the side, Robert.
On August 9th, 2015, a free public outdoor event in Los Angeles produced something nobody had brought a camera to record. Not a craft, not lights, a figure. It was captured on 3 separate cameras simultaneously by different people in the crowd. Dozens of witnesses were present. The footage showed a glowing humanoid form floating in the air above them, upright, proportioned like a standing person, with no visible means of support and no movement pattern that matched any known aerial object. California-based skywatcher Jonathan Castro, who runs the YouTube channel JC Aerial Anomaly, posted comparable footage from the same period above his own house in Los Angeles. He wrote that he had filmed a similar humanoid figure floating above the street in August of that year. 2 independent sources, the same shape, the same city, the same month. The shape did not stay fixed. Witnesses described it shifting as they watched. Stretch one moment, compress the next. A silhouette that kept redefining its own edges. The glow was consistent. The form was not. Online skeptics were specific in their counter-explanation. A Michelin Man balloon. A novelty-shaped balloon with detachable limbs, they argued. That could possibly produce exactly the silhouette at altitude. The argument circulated widely. The problem with the Michelin Man balloon theory, noted by investigators reviewing the 3-camera footage, was the behavior. You see, a balloon drifts. It follows the wind. It doesn't hover in a fixed position above a crowd and then vanish without drifting away first. The gray wanderer did not drift. It held position. Then it was gone. Silent, precise, instantaneous departure. The shape was unrecognizable. The behavior was identical to everything else in California skies. And 90 minutes north, on a Tuesday afternoon, someone filmed a shape that it was entirely recognizable. A disk, metallic, moving in broad daylight with nobody watching except one woman in a minivan. On November 6, 2016, a woman named Dolores was driving through Napa Valley when she saw something above her that made her pull over. She parked her minivan at the roadside. She took out her iPhone. She kept both hands steady and stayed completely silent, the way you go quiet when you're not sure what you're looking at. What she filmed was a disc-shaped object moving steadily across open sky. No wings, no rotors, no sound at any point, even when it passed directly overhead. The surface was metallic and smooth. It held altitude without any of the oscillation that drone airframes produce when they hold position. Whatever was propelling it, the propulsion was entirely internal and invisible from the outside. Now she submitted the footage to Third Phase of Moon, the UFO documentary channel run by Blake Cousins. Analyst Brent reviewed it on camera and noted the key detail. Consumer and commercial drones in 2016 oscillated visibly when they came to a stop or changed direction. The object in Dolores' footage showed none of that movement. Dolores estimated the object at roughly the size of a small SUV by comparing it to trees and vehicles in frame, large enough to carry one or two people. It transited residential airspace without any aviation authority receiving a report. No flight was registered in that airspace at that altitude at that time. The FAA logged nothing. No pilot filed a report. Skeptics suggested a custom-built large drone or an experimental aircraft on an undisclosed route. But Dolores said it made no sound whatsoever, even at its closest point. Now, a drone that size in 2016 technology would not be silent. The footage has circulated in aviation and UFO research communities for years. Nobody has been able to explain it. The Napa Valley airspace log for November 6, 2016 has not been released. Dolores filmed one object, one afternoon, at one location. Northern California had been watching something for 3 decades. Not one object, but a pattern. And the pattern had a shape that never changed. Northern California has been generating a specific category of report for more than 30 years. Not orbs, not saucers. Triangles. Large, dark, silent. Lights at the corners. A central light underneath. Moving slowly or hovering. No engine sound at any range, even when close enough that a conventional aircraft at the same altitude would be clearly audible from the ground. Multiple witnesses across different counties describe the same defining detail. The object blocks out stars as it passes. Now that rules out atmospheric light phenomena. It means physical mass. A defined edge. Something solid moving through airspace above rural California without any sound. Aviation analyst Tyler Rogoway at the War Zone has argued that triangles are American. Classified, slow-moving surveillance platforms using unconventional propulsion. The government knows what they are. The strangeness is secrecy, not extraterrestrial origin. Now that explanation requires believing that the U.S. military has been flying classified silent aircraft over rural Northern California continuously for 3 decades without a single acknowledged incident, a single confirmed sighting, or a single accidental identification by commercial aviation. Now, one account from a highway north of Sacramento describes a triangle so large that the witness, standing outside their stopped car, could not see the full span from edge to edge while standing directly beneath it. It hovered for several minutes, then drifted behind a ridge. No sound during the hover. No sonic event on departure. The road was otherwise empty. 30 years of reports and not a single explanation. But those accounts were verbal, uncorroborated, and undated. What happened in Porterville was on drone footage, time-stamped, specific, and it happened more than once. On December 17, 2022, a property surveyor launched his drone over an abandoned stretch of land in Porterville, California, to map terrain for a development project. High above his drone, a black, metallic-looking sphere was hovering, precisely, not drifting with air current, not bobbing the way a balloon bobs, holding a fixed position with a kind of active correction that requires either a propulsion system or something no one has ever been able to identify. He followed it, and it moved deliberately, changed direction twice, then slipped out of frame, gone. He was certain it wasn't a balloon, because balloons do not cross the wind. He was certain it wasn't a commercial drone, because commercial drones at that altitude required navigational lights under FAA regulations and produced audible rotor noise. This object was dark, and it was silent. The sphere was not an isolated event. In the same 12-month window, Porterville produced a second sighting of a black orb that descended from altitude, stabilized in midair, and then accelerated vertically out of frame. A third witness in a moving vehicle reported an octahedron-shaped craft that matched the car's speed, held formation, made a sharp right-angle turn, and then vanished. No deceleration, no gradual turn radius. 3 different objects, 3 different witnesses, the same airspace corridor above the San Joaquin Valley. The same behavioral signature, silent, precise, and gone without the kind of physics that human-manufactured aircraft require when changing direction at speed. No aviation authority has assigned an explanation to any of the 3 Porterville sightings. Everything documented so far has one thing in common: the sky. The objects arrived from above, moved through the air, and departed upward. What the U.S. Navy tracked off the California coast in February of 2023 did not arrive from above at all. Not just today, but in the past, California has seen different UFO sightings. The USS Nimitz radar operators first flagged the objects on November 10, 2004. They had been watching them for days before anyone sent a pilot to investigate. The objects were appearing at 80,000 feet and dropping to near sea level within seconds, and then stopping, then doing it again. Commander David Fravor descended toward the disturbance. Below him, a patch of churned white water on an otherwise calm ocean. Above it, hovering, an object roughly 40 feet long, white, oblong, with no wings and no exhaust. When he banked toward it, it accelerated toward him, and then vanished. It reappeared at the Combat Air Patrol point 60 miles away, in less than a minute. The FLIR targeting pod on the second aircraft recorded everything. The footage shows a white object moving against wind direction, rotating, and then exiting the frame faster than the camera can track. Skeptic Mick West spent years arguing the FLIR footage was a product of parallax and camera rotation, that the object's movements were optical artifacts of an infrared system tracking a distant, ordinary aircraft. Now, he published detailed technical breakdowns. He built side-by-side comparison videos. Fravor responded that Mick West was not in the cockpit, that he saw the water disturbed below the object before he ever saw the object itself, that what he watched move did not move like any aircraft he had encountered in a 20-year career. The Pentagon officially released the footage in April 2020. Now, alongside it came acknowledgement of ATIP, a classified $22 million program studying UAP reports since 2007 that had never been publicly announced. Now, Fravor testified before Congress in 2023, under oath, alongside Navy pilot Ryan Graves. He said no technology known to the United States military in 2004 could replicate what he saw over the California coast. He had been saying that for 19 years. Nobody in authority had ever told him that he was wrong. Fravor noticed disturbed water before he ever saw the object above it. That flying tic-tac may have come from the ocean. That detail sat unaddressed in his testimony for years. Until February 2023, when the USS Jackson tracked something off the same coastline that did not arrive from the sky at all. In February 2023, a crew member in the Combat Information Center of the USS Jackson, a Navy combat ship operating off the California coast, noticed something anomalous on their tracking systems. The object did not appear from above. It actually emerged from the ocean's surface, rising straight up into the air. A smooth ascent, no explosion, no spray pattern that you would expect from a rocket launch or debris. Something moving from water to air as though the transition required no adjustment. Infrared sensors then tracked two objects above the ocean, described by those present as tic-tac shaped, white, smooth, featureless, moving in synchronization as if connected or responding to a single command. Then they accelerated simultaneously and departed. The Transmedium detail is the one that separates this incident from standard aerial sightings. Aircraft are designed for air. Submarines are designed for water. The object tracked by the USS Jackson appeared to operate in both without slowing down for either. Ryan Graves, who testified before Congress alongside Fravor in 2023, said transmedium movement was a reoccurring characteristic in recent UAP reports. Objects entering and exiting water without hydrodynamic signatures. Engineering, he said, he did not recognize as human. Well, 20 years earlier, Fravor had seen disturbed water beneath the Tic Tac before he saw the craft above it. Same behavior, same coast. The USS Jackson confirmed that what Fravor had suspected in 2004 was not incidental. Rather, it was a pattern. On May 8, 2026, the Pentagon released the Pursue files, 161 declassified documents available at war.gov/UFO. Military encounter reports, radar records, pilot testimonies, and internal assessments that had been inside classified compartments for decades. California appears in the archive more than any other state. The Pacific Corridor from San Diego north to the Bay Area is referenced in 14 separate incident reports spanning 5 decades. The Nimitz Tic Tac encounter is classified in the archive as one of 7 highest confidence UAP cases in the entire data set. The files included Middle East footage of objects performing unreplicable maneuvers, Apollo transcripts referencing unexplained objects in lunar orbit, and internal assessments from the 1950s acknowledging that some aerial phenomena could not be attributed to known human technology. Pat Ryder, the Pentagon press secretary, had spent years giving carefully worded non-answers to UAP questions. After Pursue, that careful wording was no longer available. For the people who had stood in California airspace and watched something they could not explain, from the woman in Napa Valley to the drone operator above Porterville to the Marines at Camp Wilson to the crew of the USS Jackson watching something rise from the ocean, Pursue did not answer what the objects were. It answered something else. It answered how long the government had known it did not know. 9 sightings, 1 state, 60 years of footage the most powerful military in the world has not explained. Now, which of these 9 is the hardest to explain? And now that the Pursue files are open at war.gov/UFO, do you think that we finally have the full picture? Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.